about 4 months ago, our house caught fire in the middle of the night. And since then, we have been reflecting on how this has shaped us, how this has reminded us of what is important in life. And we think that Dr. Don is just the perfect person to talk to us about this, given his experience and everything that we've been doing together. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm excited to have this conversation.
I'm deeply honored to have you two do this with me. I mean, I know, first of all, hello, I haven't seen you since I had this experience. I know we've been talking about doing it, and like everything, like these kinds of things occur, you want to do it at the right time when it feels right. I miss you both. I've lived as much as I can with whatever's been going on. I was so concerned when I heard about it. I knew this day would finally come where we would talk about it. Isla, I'm going to say hi to you too, and tell you that you know how the two of you mean to me. You're like family to me. I think the world needs to hear. I can't think of two people, like you say, I can't think of two people better than the two of you to talk about what you just experienced. And so I just want you both to know I love you both, and I'm ready to embrace the journey with you.
This is something that doesn't happen very often, so it's good to have a perspective from people that have gone through something like this.
Well, you two have set the stage for the world to now listen to what you both have to say about this. And I think the start would basically take me back to that moment.
Kind of just to show how kind of just shocked we were and when that first all happened, we have a few videos that we were actually filming ourselves during that time, because we knew that we would want to look back on like how right after, just mere hours after something like that had happened, how we were responding to it. And so there are a couple that we have. One where in the middle of the night we couldn't sleep, so we just went to McDonald's without shoes or socks. And then there's also one where my dad, he had like the tops of his hair was all singed, so it was kind of like him reacting to that. So I can just play a couple of those. Are really short.
I gotta get this for posterity. There's my little homeless baby.
I stepped in something.
You stepped in something? Oh my god.
It looks just about as clear as water.
Guys, look at my hair.
Yeah, I saw.
I mean, wow. Holy. Oh my god.
The good
That's
thing
crazy.
that we're gonna get a house of iron.
Yeah, we're gonna get an iron house.
We're gonna get caught
Is that
on
a porcupine?
Is
Yeah,
that our
it's
new
our
house?
it's our pet hedgehog.
Nice.
And that's our iron house.
You know,
And that's all of us bald.
I'm rocking.
Roll ball. That way we
Because
won't
we
catch
don't
fire.
get catch on fire.
I'm rocking
And
the
all
bald
of our
look.
houses, you
Oh,
see
yeah.
how we're so stiff? That's because we're wearing clothes
I need
made out of
feet.
iron.
I need feet.
Oh no feet.
You need feet. Anyway, it was like 2:00 in the morning.
I thought it was 12.
No, really?
Yeah, time passed so fast. And because I saw from mommy's phone when she was calling.
Mm-hmm. Well, our house, you can see the fire department's still out there. And I went out and I thanked all of them.
Yeah.
There's like 20 of them.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they got here really fast.
Yeah.
Like, I still have smoke. I have smoke in my, I mean, I inhaled some smoke.
Yeah, well, we all did.
And,
It
oh
was
my
just-
God, are you serious?
I mean,
You guys? So what?
it filled the whole house. The smoke. When Isla and I were going down the stairs, it was so smoky.
Wow. I I think you guys got out before me.
Yeah, we did. You were running around naked because you didn't.
Oh, I was naked, yeah.
At first, I didn't even know like where the fire was, so I was really freaked out because I thought if it's at the bottom of the stairs, then we're stuck.
Right. Well, so Juno was trying to. I don't want to talk about
Yeah, don't talk about
it. Just turn it off.
What I want to say, I had heard some of that. Your dad, the dog, did the dog bark? I heard. Is that how you found out about the fire?
That was what woke us up.
Was it the middle of the night?
Yeah, it was in the middle of the night. The fire alarms hadn't gone off, but Juno was barking.
How come the fire alarms did not go off, by the way? I think it'd be good for people to hear about that, because everybody who has fire alarms would hope it would go off.
Well, one, we don't have the modern fire alarm system where there's multiple in the whole house. And when
All
one
chained
goes
together.
Yeah, and when one goes off, they all go off. And so we hadn't had that installed because our house was pretty old. And then also the fire started, we're pretty sure, on the deck or near that area, or like in that sort of area. So when it happened, that if it was on the deck, then the smoke hadn't gotten in the house immediately when that started to happen. So yeah, I think so that did teach us a very good lesson of, well, it's just kind of like
Our house was mostly made out of bricks,
yeah.
so we didn't think that could happen. Because since it's an old house, it was made out of bricks, whereas some of the modern houses, they're made out of just like wood and stuff like that can really, really easily catch on fire, not even counting all of the plushy pillows in the house and stuff like that. And so we thought that that couldn't happen. And if it did, then it just like sped through the house so quickly. And without Juno, we'd probably be dead right now.
Wow. So we'll get into having a near-death experience for both of you, I'm sure. But I was thinking, how was it watching that footage? I mean, I'm sure you've seen it a million times. Do you have any feelings? I mean, for me, I had heard about it, but seeing your father and just hearing and seeing what I just saw, do you have any feelings seeing that again with me right now?
We actually hadn't seen that before today.
Okay.
Now.
So well, yeah. So what was that like for you, Sumay and Aila, seeing it just now?
I think that for me, at least, when I imagine something bad happening, not that specifically, but like just anything bad and shocking happening, I imagined it being more real and evident when you're thinking about it, and just kind of being overwhelmed with emotions. And that really isn't the case, because when something like that happens to you, you're in such shock. You don't have time to really process it at all. And because of that, it was just like, it's kind of like you just have lapses of like, you're kind of numb and you don't even realize that it's happened, and then you realize it and it's kind of like,
sometimes the emotions will just like crash over you like a wave, and then you'll like feel really, really sad and fearful for like a few minutes until you finally calm down, and then you're back into numbness. But while you're actually experiencing it, like in that moment, I just felt shock and then sadness. Well, the sadness came after, and then fear, just shock and fear. But like, I remember before our house caught on fire, I used to think like, if my house catches on fire, then I stay in my room, I grab all of my stuffed animals, and then I run out, and then I come back in, and then get my stuffed animals. And that's really just not the case, because it just zips through so fast. And that was with a brick house.
I remember when I was 7, I had a plan that I would put all my stuffed animals in a trash bag and I would toss them out the window.
that
So
happened.
it's what you're saying is because it was a brick house, you would not have expected this to happen in the way it did.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
think that's a very, and basically what the firefighter told us is that the whole house would have just like been going through, like it took 4 minutes basically for it to just catch, like everything to just from the deck to the front door is charred black, and that's on the opposite side of the house, and it took 4 minutes. And for a modern home, it would probably take around that same time for it to be completely burnt to the ground.
And
And so
what
for us, it was also kind of like interesting to see that like our blind spot, because we felt very safe with just the fact that our house was a brick house.
We felt safe in our home, and so when that just got like
Taken away,
that's probably like something that caused a lot of my anxiety after the fire when I was looking back on it, because I always thought of my house as like my safe spot.
Mhm.
And when that gets burned down, when that gets pulled underneath you,
Mm.
it's a lot to take in.
Mm.
But it took us like a few weeks for it to even hit us, really, for us to accept it.
Mhm.
But after that happened, I learned that like our house is in our home. Our family is our home, because that's what brings all of this safe emotions. That's where we can feel safe, because that's never going to crumble beneath us. Like our family isn't just going to leave us, but our house can.
You want to add to that? So that's very touching, Isla. Do you feel the same way, Sumay? You feel the same way about that?
I definitely do feel the same way. I think it was very dramatic how the focus of like what you think of as like home, and when you get home and you kind of like have that feeling, how that just immediately switched to, honestly, at first our car, when we first came out that same night, it was like 3 a.m. and we couldn't sleep, so we just wanted to get out, and we were just going to our car because our car was fine, and just the feeling of being in our car was just so different. Like we just kind of felt it was just one of those things that we still had.
Mm.
And
That's the first thing you did is you went to the car.
well, not the first thing. At first,
Our neighbors, they invited us in like
immediately.
But we couldn't sleep because of all the adrenaline from having such a shocking and fearful experience. And so we just went in our car and tried to find a place to get breakfast. But the McDonald's was the only thing that was open.
Yeah, that's the video everybody got to see. Did you all go out at the same time? The dog barked and you all got up. Did you see each other as you were all fleeing the house together? Or each of you just kind of just got out as fast as you could?
Well, we weren't really looking at each other.
I do remember, I think Isla was right behind me.
Yeah.
Because we were in the same room.
And where were your parents? Where were your parents when that was happening?
Yeah, well, I know
We're
that
all on the same floor, so
we
we all
all-
just ran down the stairs.
Yeah, but my mom actually ran down and ran back up before we were even up, which we didn't actually know because she heard the dog barking.
So she went downstairs to check on.
And she saw the fire and ran up, and that's what
got us all up.
Yeah, and well, then after my dad heard what she was saying, then my dad shouted and got us up. And so that was
I remember the specific moment when we were in the house. I was lying on my bed, and then I didn't know what was going on. And I remember whatever I thought about before our house catching on fire, whatever I imagined it happening, I always thought, okay, I'm gonna grab Stuffy. But
Who's Stuffy? Your stuffed animal?
Stuffy is my stuffed animal. Stuffy was actually fine, but I had to wash it like 12 times before I was able to get it to not smell toxic. And I remember putting Stuffy down because I was like, no, the house isn't on fire. I actually thought that.
Well, when I first heard it, it was just very hard to believe. I just
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm just gonna like get out of here, because obviously if your parents say that the house is on fire, then you get out. But
I didn't think it was anything serious.
yeah, I didn't either, especially because my dad went outside with a hose, and I just thought, oh, this is gonna be fine, like he's gonna put it out, and then it just enveloped the whole house.
Wow.
And so I think that part of one article I wrote after the fire, kind of reflecting on it, was talking about availability bias and talking about how the most recent experiences and like more available data that you have is the thing that is kind of going to shape your thinking the most. And so kind of after the fire, we were looking everywhere and we just saw fire hazards, like that's a fire hazard, that's a fire hazard. And when we were thinking about how are we going to rebuild our home, we were like, okay, we're going to make everything out of concrete, glass, and steel. And that's like, we're going to, the modern design. And we were thinking, it's like, we're fine spending like another $500,000 if we can get it like that. And it's like, that's not really the real risk after that, right? You know, it's like because after our experience, we're probably never going to be in another fire, because that risk is going to be so evident to us that we're just going to avoid it at all costs. And so I think that was also important for us to realize, like, what are the next risks now? Like making sure that our house has like broken down stairs, so it's not just all one flight and then you can just like fall down and hurt yourself. Like making sure it would be really ironic if after our house burns down, then we're so afraid of fire and then we end up drowning because we're like focused on the wrong risks. And so I think that's also really important, and especially thinking about like your own blind spots beforehand. We had never ever considered a fire being a threat because of our brick house, also because we were just very comfortable with it. My dad grew up on a tree farm, and our mom like grew up in the countryside of China where they're like burning rice stalks in order to get heat for the winter. Like we were just very comfortable. We would always have fires in our backyard, and it was just something, it was just a part of life, and it was never considered a threat because of that. And that was kind of something where that was our blind spot because of that. And I think kind of considering, well, given that same principle, what are the next blind spots that we haven't identified yet?
What caused the fire?
We don't know specifically. It could have been a bunch of things. It could have been electrical. Our house was really old. And so, yeah, we're not sure of the exact cause.
What would you tell viewers who are all watching the show to do? Obviously, none of us ever think anything like this is going to happen to us. And I think, Aila, what you said about what really matters, of course, it makes you think about the things that really matter. What would you tell people who are watching this in terms of prevention, what they could do, or what you learned from this that they could do to prevent this from happening, if there's anything they could have done in terms of fire alarms or whatever, technical things or whatever?
Just being aware of the risk. It's like all of these movies of like the house catching fire. It'll be like an old barn with like rotting wood in the movie, and then the firefighters will like go in, like save the horse and save the chickens and save the birds. And I remember after the fire in our apartment, they were playing a movie in the gym, and in that movie there was a barn that was on fire, and then the firefighters and all of the people had all this time to like grab stuff, and people don't know about the actual risk. Our house was brick, and it just like our since Juno woke us up, we were able to survive. But even with like the new house, I mean, they're basically made of like cardboard and paper mache, and it's like, it's crazy how people don't know. Like in our apartment, this one day the third floor was like full of smoke, and
because of construction. There's retail
yeah,
construction.
and that like freaked us out, and we went down to the front desk. It's like the third floor is full of smoke, and they didn't know what was going on, but the manager was just like, oh yeah, it's just the welding, you don't need to worry about it. It's like, no, you don't know if it's just the welding. You don't know if there's a 1% chance that something like that could be going on. That's a very different chance than zero, and that's what makes the difference. And you should be responsible, and people don't really know about the actual risk. And that sounds really like, what someone that's gone through something like me would say. But I had the experience of watching my brick home just completely burn down. Well,
So
not
what,
burn down, but be charred.
so
So
what I want to ask you is, what would people do? But not everybody has a Juno. Not everybody has a dog that could do what your dog did. What happens to if you had not had Juno, the alarm system? People have fire alarms. They think they're going to be safe, and they would hear the fire alarm. So in this case, your fire alarm did not go off. It was Juno who saved your life, right?
Yeah, I think it's the most important thing is to, I mean, just get out immediately, and also and not to grab anything. Like, it just does not matter compared to your life. It does not
What
matter.
about the? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think also to kind of have a plan of making sure that everybody is able to just, and making sure that you can actually like have a place to get out of the place that you're like sleeping. Like in your bedroom there is a fire escape if you're on the second floor. If there was fire coming up the stairs, we would not have been able to escape unless we just like jumped out the window and would probably get hurt.
really hurt.
Yeah, like we didn't have a fire escape out of the bedrooms in the second floor, but making sure that you have a way that you can actually get out from some other means. And like the fire was on the stairs within a minute of us leaving. So we got out in the nick of time, but not everybody's going to be lucky.
So how come? I mean, I think what this is triggering for me and probably a lot of people is you never think it's going to happen to you, and people think they have these fire alarms and work. It's because you had the old house, the fire alarm did not work, and if the other people, if they had had a fire
Well,
alarm,
it did work, but it was too late. It would
the
not.
fire alarm necessarily is not going to make any difference in a situation like this, is what you're both saying.
Well, I do think that part of it was that we had not had the modern like connected system of fire alarms. But I also think that I don't want to be so specific on fires because of course that is something that happened to us. But there are plenty of risks for everybody, and the focus should be on making sure that you are avoiding these risks in the first place, and kind of focusing on just the prevention. And a bunch of people die from drowning in pools and falling downstairs and getting in car crashes and all of these different things that can happen. And I think the point is to really just not disregard the risk. But also I think a big focus is like, I think that there is the experience of like, okay, well, if your house burns down, like what do you do with the experience? Talk us through like how you're handling it. And I don't think that that's not a very generalizable kind of experience. I think that it's like everybody goes through some sort of tragedy in their life, whether that's a loved one passing away, which is just going to inevitably happen to anybody, or something like what we've gone through. And I think that that part of it for us is also realizing like how much just owning stuff just does not matter at all. And I think that we had never been very materialistic, but after losing everything, it really just put things in perspective. Like, we have a society where it's just where there is a lot of focus on just getting stuff. Like, for Christmas, everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna get some stuff, and it and it's like, it just does not bring happiness. I think that is a big thing that I've learned from this experience, is what does bring happiness. Because I think that before the fire, I had been in a little bit of a rut, like kind of just doing the same things, having the same environment, and not really being able to get out of my own head. And in a lot of ways, I think that I was actually happier after the fire, because we were forced out of our home, forced out of our routine, forced to see new places, meet new people, and have many new experiences. And that's really what life is just a series of moment by moment experiences. And what that actually is, you have control over. It doesn't require a fire to make you kind of like update your way of thinking. Of course, it wasn't like after the fire I'm like immediately happy. We had about a month of just like very
mini panic attacks,
of panic attacks and
anxiety.
But after that, it kind of forced us to rethink, like, what do we want out of our life and what's important. And so, yeah, I think
So what I want to do, but we're going to get more into that. I want to go back a little bit, because I figure we're going to get more into that. I want to get into the fact that, like, Isla, you wanted stuffy, right? Did you get stuffy? Was that the thing you wanted to get out of the house, that you were going to feel you were going to be missing the most? We talk about material things. Did you get stuffy out with you?
Yeah. Stuffy's fine.
Stuffy. Well, you were happy to get stuffy out. That was what was important to you, right?
Yeah, there are a few things that you really develop like emotional connections with, but just having a lot of stuff and having that part of your identity is that you have a lot of stuff and you're so rich and you're like swimming in stuff and you've got all the stuff. It's like,
right.
That shouldn't be important to you.
Yeah.
And stuffy, that's one thing. Like, there are a few things that you are going to have emotional connections with. But I think it's good just generally not to have that associated with your identity, or a big part of who you are is that you have all this stuff. And like, there are a few things, like I'm really connected with stuffy. Like, it took like 1,000 times to wash it to get it to smell decent.
Stuffy, you were gonna miss Stuffy if Stuffy got burned down and got
definitely
burned.
I think
I'm gonna get stuffy.
Yeah.
What did your dad just say? What did dad just?
Because he's gonna get stuffy.
Stuffy.
And
you all should get to see Stuffy in this show, maybe.
Yeah, Stuffy still smells a little bit like smoke, so I give it like a bath every.
There, thank you, Joe. Your dad knew exactly what to do. Let's say, everybody say hi to Stuffy. We all have our Stuffies. Well,
Stuffy's gone through a lot because Stuffy lost a whole tribe, but now he's got a new tribe.
You had a whole tribe, Stuffy?
Yeah, of stuffed animals.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that just seeing you hold Stuffy warms my heart. Just so you know that. And for you, Sumay, did you have, like we have Stuffy, did you have anything for you in particular that you didn't want to lose, or you would have held on to the way I was holding on to Stuffy at this moment?
I do think that I'm less like, for Isla, she's kind of very tactile. She did a ton of like Harry Potter crafts and things. Like, she painted her whole room, and I think that was like a big part of. I remember talking to you about it the night of the fire, and you were really sad to have lost all of that. But we had videos of pretty much everything that you created.
I didn't really lose it.
And so you didn't really lose it in that sense. And
what didn't she really lose?
Well, she did a lot of crafts that
Oh.
that we weren't able to salvage.
I
Although we were able
painted-
to salvage some wands.
Yeah,
This-
I painted platform 9 3/4 from Harry Potter on my wall, barrier, and I had a lot of like nature paintings on my wall, and that was something I was really proud of. But it didn't just sit there. We took a lot of videos, and I think that's one thing. It's like if you just have something that you made, if you don't document it in some way, you're just gonna lose it.
Yeah, the memory.
And that's something
That's good.
that's like, and we got a lot of videos of it, and I still really have it
Great.
with all the videos, and that's really nice because I didn't just lose it all.
Yeah.
Important to document. I think that's a really important point that you did that. I'm now going to ask what I think is probably a very difficult question and answer. Juno, I know both of you, and I know I've heard from your father, Aila, what Juno meant to you, and Sumay, I'm sure Juno meant a lot to you as well. We've talked so far, obviously, about what you lose that you don't want to lose, but Juno died in the fire, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry. Your father had told me about that, and my understanding is it was Juno basically who barked. How old was Juno, by the way?
About 8 or 9.
It was Juno who barked that saved the family's life, right?